Imagine you are locked in a steel capsule 4,000 meters deep. Outside the porthole lies absolute darkness. The bathyscaph's searchlight cuts through the water, illuminating the suspended particles of dead organic matter slowly drifting down from the surface. And suddenly, in the beam of light, it appears. An eye, the size of a basketball, 25 centimeters in diameter. It stares directly at you, unblinking. Behind it, a silhouette recedes into the darkness. Tentacles as thick as a human leg vanish beyond the edge of visibility. 13 meters of flesh that should not exist. This is the giant squid, Architeuthis dux, a monster considered a myth for 100 years, until it wasn't. But here's what is truly terrifying: it is not alone. Down there in the eternal cold and darkness dwell creatures that dwarf their terrestrial relatives. The woodlouse in your backyard is 2 centimeters long. Its deep-sea cousin, the isopod, is 50 centimeters and weighs 1.5 kilograms, 100 times larger. The spider in the corner of your room is a centimeter across. The sea spider from the depths has a leg span of 70 centimeters, 40 times bigger. You think a pressure of 400 atmospheres, the weight of 50 elephants on a thumbnail, should crush all living things? It creates giants. Where there should be nothing but rock and water, nature cultivates monsters. Why? Today we will descend to a place where physics rewrites the rules of biology, where cold, hunger, and darkness transform tiny creatures into nightmares the size of a bus, where every law of nature works in reverse. But before explaining how they survive, we must answer another question. Do they survive at all? Or are they dead giants drifting in the eternal darkness that we mistake for the living? 4,000 meters below the surface, the bathyscaph hangs suspended in a water column that has not moved for 1,000,000 years. The thermometer reads 2 degrees Celsius. Yesterday it was 2 degrees. Tomorrow it will be 2 degrees. In 100 years it will be the same. This is not an ocean. It is a refrigerator the size of a continent. On land, temperatures fluctuate from -40 to +40 degrees. Animals spend half their energy on staying warm in winter and cool in summer. This problem does not exist here. Water absorbs heat 300 times better than air. The temperature is frozen in time. And here is something strange. In 1847, German biologist Carl Bergman noticed a pattern. In cold regions, animals are larger than their southern relatives. A polar bear is bigger than a brown bear. A wolf in Alaska is twice as heavy as one in Mexico. The reason is geometry. As an animal grows, its volume increases faster than its surface area. Imagine a cube with a side of 1 meter. Its surface area is 6 square meters, and its volume is 1 cubic meter. Now, double its size, the surface area becomes 24 square meters, 4 times larger. The volume becomes 8 cubic meters, 8 times larger. Greater volume means more heat produced by the body. A smaller surface area relative to volume means less heat is lost. A large animal in a cold environment conserves energy. The deep sea is an eternal winter, 2 degrees without fluctuation. Bergman's rule operates at its maximum potential. But there is another factor. The cold slows down the chemistry of life. The metabolism of deep-sea creatures is 70 to 90% slower than that of their surface-dwelling relatives. The giant grenadier, a fish 1.5 meters long, lives for 56 years. Its coastal relative lives for 10 years at most. A slow metabolism means slow aging. It also means indeterminate growth. Most fish grow throughout their lives. The longer you live, the larger you become. A 50-year-old grenadier weighs 20 times more than it did at 10. It does not age. It accumulates mass, like a bank account accruing interest. You might say, but whales are enormous, and they live near the surface. What does the cold have to do with it? Here is the difference. Whales are warm-blooded. Their body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. The water is 2 degrees, a 35-degree difference. 90% of a whale's energy is spent on maintaining warmth. Only 10% goes to movement, growth, and reproduction. Deep-sea giants are cold-blooded. Their body temperature is the same as the water's. 2 degrees, no temperature difference. 0 energy spent on heating. All energy goes into growth. The cold does not kill, it liberates. But if it is that simple, why don't they grow indefinitely? Why don't we see squids the size of skyscrapers? Because there is another problem, and it is deadly. The problem is called the square-cube law, and it kills anything that tries to become too large. Imagine you scale up an animal by a factor of 2. Its length, width and height all double. Its surface area increases fourfold, but its volume increases eightfold. On land, this is a catastrophe. A dinosaur 20 meters tall weighs 8 times more than a dinosaur 10 meters tall, but the cross-sectional area of the bone supporting that weight has only grown fourfold. The bones cannot cope. They break. The animal collapses under its own weight. This is why elephants have pillar-like legs. It is why the largest dinosaurs lived in water. It supported their weight. But in the deep, the square-cube law works in reverse. When an isopod increases in size tenfold, its surface area grows 100-fold. Its body volume grows 1,000-fold. Less surface area per unit of mass means less heat loss. More volume means more space for energy reserves. Fat, glycogen. Everything needed to survive starvation. A giant isopod can go without food for 5 years. 5 years. Its body is a warehouse designed for an apocalypse, and now for Kleiber's law. In 1932, Swiss biologist Max Kleiber discovered that an animal's metabolic rate is proportional to its body mass raised to the 3/4 power. What does this mean? A giant weighing 100 kilograms uses 3 times less energy per kilogram of body weight than a creature weighing 1 kilogram. Being big is energetically efficient. Consider the giant octopus Halophron atlanticus. 75 kilograms of living weight. It feeds on jellyfish. A jellyfish is 95% water and 5% protein. Its caloric value is almost zero. A small octopus would starve to death in a week. Halophron lives for years. It eats tons of jellyfish, but its enormous body processes them so slowly that the energy is sufficient. The math does not lie. In the abyss, being big is not a luxury. It is a necessity. But then the question remains. If the square-cube law makes gigantism advantageous and the cold reduces energy costs, why don't deep-sea monsters grow forever? Because there is another problem. Food, and it changes everything. At a depth of 1,000 meters, there is no photosynthesis, no plants, no plankton. There is only what falls from above, marine snow. That is what scientists call the shower of detritus, dead algae, whale feces, fish scales, sometimes an entire carcass. All of it slowly sinks through the water column, decomposing on its way down. Only crumbs reach the bottom. Imagine this. You live in a desert where food falls from the sky, but not every day, once a month, maybe once every 3 months, unpredictably, and you never know when the next meal will arrive. Being small here is a death sentence. A small body burns through its reserves in days. A giant can wait for years. The giant isopod Bathynomus giganteus. 50 centimeters of shell, 1.5 kilograms of weight. In a laboratory, one specimen survived without food for 5 years. 5 years. Its metabolism is so slow that its body essentially enters a state of suspended animation between meals. This is not life. It is waiting for death on pause. But there are exceptions, places where the rules are rewritten. Hydrothermal vents, fissures in the ocean floor spewing water at 350 degrees Celsius. Hydrogen sulfide, methane, toxic metals. For us, poison. For some creatures, fuel, the giant tube worm Riftia percipitila, 2.5 meters long. It grows to this size in a year and a half. This is a record growth rate for an invertebrate. It has no mouth, no gut. Inside it hosts a colony of symbiotic bacteria. They convert hydrogen sulfide into energy, chemical photosynthesis. Riftia does not wait for marine snow. It is plugged into the source, an endless supply of energy from hell. But such places are rare. The rest of the abyss lives by the law of starvation. And here is what is strange. The giant phantom jelly, Stygiomedusa gigantea, a bell 1 meter in diameter, tentacles 10 meters long, in 110 years of research, it has been encountered 115 times. 115 times. Why so rarely? Is the population tiny, or does it live so slowly that a single individual can drift for decades barely moving? Cope's rule, 1871. In evolutionary lineages, body size tends to increase over time. Deep-sea species have been isolated for millions of years. No predators from above, no competition from below. The trend is amplified. They do not grow because they can. They grow because they will die otherwise. Starvation created the giants, but starvation also made them prisoners. Because there is another force, the one that should have crushed them all, 400 atmospheres of pressure, and it does not just crush, it shapes. 400 atmospheres, the weight of 50 elephants on the area of a thumbnail. You think this should crush any creature? Turn flesh into pulp, bones into dust? No, pressure does not crush the deep-sea giants. It creates them. Because pressure is not a wall, it is a filter. It weeds out all who are unprepared. It leaves only those who understand the rules of the game. Rule number 1. Pressure is applied equally from all sides. Imagine submerging an empty bottle in water. At a depth of 10 meters, it implodes. Why? Because there is air inside, a cavity. The pressure difference between the outside and the inside shatters its structure. Now, imagine submerging a bottle filled with water. To the brim, no air bubbles, it will not implode, ever, because the pressure outside equals the pressure inside. Deep-sea giants figured this out millions of years ago. They have no lungs, no swim bladders, no gas-filled cavities. Their bodies are essentially water packaged in protein and lipids. Their density is close to that of the ocean. Pressure passes through them like light through glass. The goblin shark, 6 meters long, it lives at a depth of 1,300 meters. Its extendable jaws shoot forward at 3 meters per second. Its flesh is a gelatinous mass. It has almost no muscle. Its bones are porous and light like styrofoam. It does not fight the pressure. It has become one with it. Rule number 2. Lipids instead of air. Near the surface, fish use a swim bladder. The gas inside provides buoyancy. In the deep, this is a death sentence. The bladder would be compressed by the pressure or explode during ascent. Deep-sea fish have replaced gas with fat. The liver of the giant grenadier is 90% lipids by mass. Fat is less dense than water. It provides buoyancy without cavities, without risk. The fish drifts in the water column, using almost no energy. But this is not just an adaptation. It is a reimagining of physics. Because fat does another thing. It slows heat loss. In 2 degrees Celsius water, a body loses heat 25 times faster than in air. Lipids are insulation. Energy does not escape into the void, it stays inside. And here is the paradox. The pressure that should kill helps to conserve energy, because the deeper you go, the less competition there is. Fewer predators, less struggle. A giant can afford to move slowly, to breathe infrequently, to live on a minimum. A 2020 study from the University of Hawaii found that deep-sea crustaceans grow more slowly than their terrestrial relatives, but they live 3 to 5 times longer. Why? Because there is no ultraviolet radiation in the deep sea. UV radiation damages DNA. It causes mutations. It limits the number of times a cell can divide. On the surface, it is a primary factor in aging. In the deep, it does not exist. Cells divide for longer periods, without damage, without errors. The animals grow throughout their lives. Indeterminate growth. The giant grenadier lives for 56 years. It grows until its last day. Pressure is not an enemy. It is an ally. It has created conditions where a slow life becomes an advantage. But there is a price, because pressure does not only weed out the weak, it weeds out diversity. It makes the ecosystem fragile. One catastrophe and an entire lineage can disappear. And we are only beginning to understand how fragile these giants are. Because gigantism is not a triumph of evolution, it is a bet on survival, and it is a losing bet. Because gigantism is a trap. You thought size provides an advantage? It does, but it also kills. A skeptic's question sounds logical. If gigantism is so beneficial, why aren't all deep-sea creatures enormous? The answer is simple. Because size is not a universal solution. It is one strategy among many, and it only works under a narrow set of conditions. Look at anglerfish. The females grow up to 1 meter long. The males are 1 centimeter. Parasites. They attach to the female, becoming a living bag of sperm. Dwarfism versus gigantism. Both strategies work, but in different niches. Gigantism demands sacrifices. The first sacrifice is time. A giant isopod 50 centimeters long takes 20 years to mature. 20 years of slowly accumulating mass. 20 years of vulnerability. When you are small, you are prey. By the time you become large, it is too late to reproduce actively. The second sacrifice is offspring. Large animals produce few young. The giant squid reproduces once in its lifetime. It lays its eggs, and then it dies. The population may number in the thousands. Or perhaps hundreds. We do not know for sure, because we have encountered them 115 times in 110 years of research. 115 times. The giant phantom jelly, Stygiomedusa gigantea. A meter in diameter, tentacles 10 meters long, 115 encounters. In a century. This is not rarity, this is near extinction. The third sacrifice is toxins, an experiment from 2017 by the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology. A submersible descends to a depth of 10,900 meters. The Mariana Trench. They collect amphipods, tiny crustaceans. The analysis reveals polychlorinated biphenyls, industrial poisons, banned since the mid-80s. The concentration is higher than in the most polluted rivers in China. How? Because large bodies accumulate toxins over decades. The lipids in the liver, 90% of its mass, store these poisons. The larger the animal, the longer it lives, the more it accumulates. The giant octopus haliphron, 75 kilograms. It feeds on jellyfish. Jellyfish filter water. The water carries microplastics, pesticides, heavy metals. The octopus eats jellyfish its entire life. 40 years. Every gram of poison remains in its body. Its liver becomes a toxic warehouse, and when it dies, its body falls to the seafloor. It becomes a feast for isopods. The isopods eat the poisoned flesh. They accumulate the toxins further. The cycle is complete. Do you see now? Gigantism is not strength. It is desperation. A last-ditch effort to survive in a world where survival is nearly impossible. Slow growth, few offspring, toxin accumulation, fragile populations, a single 2-degree change in temperature, and their metabolism speeds up. Energy reserves deplete faster. Starvation kills in months instead of years. One catastrophe, an oil spill, an underwater canyon collapse, and the entire local population vanishes forever. Because giants do not recover quickly. 20 years to sexual maturity, few offspring, high juvenile mortality. We look at the monsters of the abyss, but we are not seeing the future of evolution. We are seeing its last breath. We descended 4,000 meters. We were looking for monsters, and we found them, but not the ones we expected. Deep-sea gigantism is not an anomaly. It is mathematics, cold, ruthless, beautiful. The cold slows metabolism by 70%. The pressure eliminates competitors. Starvation turns size into an advantage. The square-cube law makes a large body energetically efficient. Kleiber's law allows for years of fasting. It is all logical, all explainable, but logic does not negate fragility. The giants of the abyss are not the pinnacle of evolution. They are its extreme, balancing on the verge of extinction. Do you understand now? These creatures survive in a world where every day is a test, where one mistake costs a life, where there are no second chances, and we are invading their world. Plastic sinks to the seafloor. Heavy metals settle in the trenches. Polychlorinated biphenyls accumulate in their fat. The water temperature is rising by 0.5 degree per decade. For us, it is barely noticeable. For them, it is a catastrophe, because giants cannot adapt quickly. 20 years to sexual maturity, few offspring, a slow turnover of generations. Evolution works through the death of the weak and the reproduction of the strong. But what if everyone dies faster than they can reproduce? Then evolution stops. We have explored 5% of the ocean, 5%. The other 95% is terra incognita, uncharted territory. What lies there? What other giants hide in trenches 11,000 meters deep? What adaptations have we not yet seen? We do not know, but we do know this. By 2050, the ocean's temperature will rise by 2 degrees. Its acidity will increase by 30%. Its oxygen concentration will drop by 15%. For the surface, this is a problem. For the abyss, it is a death sentence. Because there is no margin of error down there. Every creature lives at the absolute limit of what is possible. And when that limit shifts, they will not be able to keep up. The bathyscaphe ascends. Below, in the last rays of the searchlight, a silhouette flickers. A giant squid. Its basketball-sized eyes look up, at us. Then the darkness swallows it. Perhaps for the last time. We searched for monsters in the abyss, but the real monsters are rising to the surface with us. in the reflection of the porthole.